From the San Francisco Standard, homeless mom loses fingers, lower leg after shelter stay. The city still won't house her. Clearly, this is a criminal illegal who came to the United States in search of some free stuff. She lost a foot and a leg and some fingers and now wants even more free stuff. And the San Francisco Standard, well, I mean, they are terrible people. They did run the story about the dog walker hate hoax, and then it turned out to be a black woman hate criming a black man. They also ran a story about how San Francisco was going to pay out a couple $1,000,000 to a former pimp, even though he's still in jail. And now they can't even be bothered to throw the term undocumented or whatever weirdo Democrat dystopian doublespeak euphemism they like. They just want you to think that this is a homeless mom down on her luck. Now, she did make the long, arduous journey from Venezuela and got into a shelter, which she should be thankful for. But of course, she's not. She got a disease and lost several of her limbs, so she's owed even more now. But my name's Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm absolutely begging you.
I'm begging you, please. Come on, please.
It would help me a lot and cost you nothing. But if you wanted to help me even more and spend a tiny bit of money, you would buy my book, New York City 2020, Gotham Unglued, on Amazon.com. That link will be in the description. But they say, as a new migrant, Carmen Marquez didn't qualify for a long-term home, so she stayed in a shelter where she says she caught a devastating illness. Yeah. Okay, so who does qualify for a long-term home? Who is going to get the city to pay for their home indefinitely, migrant or otherwise? Carmen Marquez fled violence and poverty in Venezuela to come to San Francisco, desperate by almost any measure, but not to the city, which didn't find her desperate enough to place in subsidized housing. So here, even in San Francisco, they're saying, no, we can't do this. But the San Francisco Standard wants you to know that you should just give her more free stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the widowed mother of two wound up in a group shelter where she fell sick with an illness that led doctors to amputate almost all of her fingers, half a leg, and several toes. Now, on the other end of a medical nightmare, the city is again denying her a long-term home because she still scores low on a priority scale set. Yeah, and I guess she should probably just leapfrog the entire line of all the weirdo junkies, dope fiends, tent dwellers, all that stuff. Get rid of all of them and put this lady in a permanent house, a long-term house, because she's just owed more. As she prepares to leave the San Francisco General Hospital after 5 months, she said the city gave her an impossible choice. Wait, you made the choice to come here, and now they're giving you two options that you should be thankful for both, but you don't like either one of them? Stay at a hotel without her 14-year-old daughter, or stay with her at the same kind of shelter where she got sick in the first place. In this condition, I can't do that, Marquez said, referring to her new disabilities. In San Francisco, an influx of migrants, complete with an entrenched homeless population for scarce resources, Marquez's chances for housing were doomed when she applied late last year because of the way the city's Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing assigns services. So they should have just, why not just hand her over everything that she wants, right? She lost a leg, for Christ's sakes. She's all about this. So she deserves everything handed to her on a silver plate. She already did, but now she deserves it even more because her legs were amputated, or one of her legs and her fingers, or whatever. Officials ask applicants probing questions about substance use, sexual assault, mental health, transactional sex, domestic violence, and how long they've been on the streets. The answers are fed into an algorithm that assigns points to determine what services to provide. Yeah, of course. I have a lot of problems with algorithms and weird AI stuff too, but they just can't stand anything that is not ready, willing, and able to just immediately give up everything to these criminal illegals. And they also, San Franciscans are kind of 50-50 on the homeless thing, right? Where Gavin Newsom wants to clean up, London Breed wants to clean up, but then you got a little sect of protesters who are saying, no, don't clean up this mess.
Last month, Mayor Breed announced the city would take an aggressive approach to sweeping tent encampments. The mayor saying at the time the goal is not to criminalize homelessness, and the city has offered shelter and space to the unhoused, but many declined the offer. Thursday's rally was supposed to take place at a scheduled city encampment removal on 6th Street near Mint Plaza, Minna, and Atoma Streets, only to find the tents gone.
So you just can't have it both ways, and it's showing. For Marquez, the score was 40 out of 160, making it unlikely that she and her daughter would qualify for a home. Yeah, but who qualifies, right? Can you just, the homeless people don't qualify. I guess they're doing dope, so they certainly wouldn't qualify. But any regular person can't just sign up a piece of paper and say, oh, give me a house. Ineligible for long-term housing, Marquez and her daughter lined up every evening for the only option available, an overnight family shelter at a school gym, which again, she should be thankful for. It became their daily routine. They'd sleep at the gym and pack up by dawn so her daughter could head to high school. Where is she going to school? A few miles away, and Marquez could work odd jobs for cash. With no fingers and half a leg? Okay. For a few months, it felt like a better life was within reach until her sudden severe sickness sidelined their hopes. Okay, so I guess she was working the odd jobs before her limbs were amputated. The 46-year-old blames spoiled milk she drank at the shelter for the meningitis that poisoned her blood and left her comatose for 6 days, intubated for 12 more, and bedridden for months of surgeries to remove the dying tissues. So you probably should have just stayed where you were at. Yet, when she retook the test for housing just days ago, the fact she just escaped death as a multiple amputee barely registered on her score. Yeah, I mean, aren't you supposed to be a migrant, right? You're supposed to be a migrant that might bring something to society, that might add something, not a lady with no fingers and one leg. I'm sorry, I know it sounds bad, but it is what it is. Gone to code. Scoring algorithms to address homelessness have fielded criticism for replacing instead of enhancing individualized case management. Skeptics say agencies often use the calculations to deny more services than they provide. Oh yeah, are you just now coming in contact with the homeless industrial complex? In San Francisco, 500 families are on the waiting list for shelter, about 300 more than a year ago, reportedly driven by the arrival of migrants. Yeah, and not once, I don't know, maybe we'll see, but I don't think they say the word illegal anywhere, or even undocumented, or even newcomers. It's just, oh, they're just migrants, right? Did they fill out the paperwork? Did they do any of that? Is she going to fill out the paperwork to get her free house? Because they're new to San Francisco, immigrants get scored as lower priority than those who have been unhoused in the city for longer, according to Matt Alexander, lead organizer for Faith in Action. That's why his group is calling for authorities to rethink the way they allocate housing resources. Yeah, so what you should do is just let the bums and the dope fiends fester on the street and give the housing that doesn't even exist to criminal illegals with one leg. The mayor's office called Marquez's case a tragic situation. While privacy laws prevented from commenting on the particulars of what happened to her specifically, I think it was milk, right? They said that. A spokesperson for Mayor London Breed said there have been no disease outbreaks reported at any city-funded shelter. The head of the nonprofit that runs the overnight shelter where Marquez and her daughter stayed from December 8th through March 12th said staff called an ambulance when the mom fell sick and promptly alerted public health and housing officials. We did not receive any information from the San Francisco Department of Public Health or SF General medical personnel indicating that the source of the illness was tied to any of the food served within the shelter. All right, so that's going to be a he said, she said. He said, she said. He said, she said. But you have to assume if they're saying it's not from the food, which it may or may not be, but I can't imagine she's in the best health after migrating from Venezuela completely illegally. Do you think she's in perfect health? Probably not. What happened to Marquez is distressing, she added, and she trusts the city will find appropriate housing given her current needs. Oh yeah, she trusts the city to just give her everything. This is crazy. That's easier said than done. Local officials acknowledge that migrants are putting pressure on below-market housing and temporary shelters, and that more must be done to reconcile services with heightened demand. And of course, San Francisco is also one of these places where it's very tough to build housing. They have all these laws. In New York, they have skyscrapers. You can't have any of that. There's like a couple skyscrapers downtown that are huge office buildings, and the rest is just like 3 or 4 story complex. I mean, there's a couple high rises, but it's not everywhere like it is in New York. And in New York, I guess they're putting the illegals into the high rises. This is a mess, to put it nicely. While it's crucial to respond to newcomers, the city must also balance the existing demand for shelter, which encompasses individuals and families experiencing homelessness, not just homeless people, unhoused, right? Including those fleeing violence and gender-based violence, a homeless and supportive housing spokesperson told The Standard. San Francisco's shelter system wasn't designed for the growing population of criminal illegals, my words, not theirs, they say migrant families, which is why the city is working with multiple departments to find a more suitable approach. So we're going to work hard to make sure that you get the housing you deserve and won't have to pay a single dime for it. Seriously, like, does she have insurance? Who paid for all of her amputations and stuff? Like, who's going to pay for the rest of her life? She's probably going to be on pills or whatever. Who is going to pay for any of that? It's not the city's computerized needs assessment. It's not that the city's computerized needs assessment deprioritizes immigrants, according to the city. It just doesn't weigh immigration status at all. It probably should, and just eliminate them completely. That said, the length of homelessness is one of the vulnerability factors that we do take into consideration, and we do prioritize people with long histories of homelessness before people who more recently became homeless, regardless of immigration status, a homeless and supportive housing spokesperson explained. Brenda Cordoba, an immigrant volunteer for Faith in Action, said the system for determining who gets shelter is unjust and inhumane. You just can't make this up. These people clearly want to live in a utopia, and they're probably just stupid. I don't think these are completely evil, manipulative folks like the political regime in California. These are just morons. The city expanded its family homelessness budget by $17 million this year to keep children off the street and out of crowded shelters, she said. So an algorithm shouldn't deny that to Marquez or others. How is it that the system says those funds are available, but this computer says she doesn't have enough points to qualify for the help? Cordoba asked in Spanish, obviously. I guess, is that her? Oh, no, that's a different woman. Whatever. These are all stupid activists. I don't want another family to suffer. I could give you a little bit of advice on how to stop the suffering completely. Marquez seems remarkably hopeful despite the adversity she faces. The loss of her fingers and limbs hasn't made her regret leaving a country. Okay, so she wants to do it anyways, right? She doesn't care that she lost a limb, that, none of that matters, because it's all worth it to come to America, even though you're going to demand housing, you're going to demand the food of your native land. It's all complete nonsense. Okay, she doesn't regret leaving a country in the throes of economic collapse and a hometown gripped by gang violence. She said she plans to bring her oldest daughter, who's 21, to the U.S. eventually too. Why? Why would you do that? Who's gonna? Is she gonna get a job? Is she gonna be legal? What are you talking about? God gave me the strength to leave my house so my daughters could have a better life, she told The Standard through a Spanish interpreter. So she doesn't even speak English. All right. This is completely despicable. Like, I know it sounds bad, this lady lost all of her limbs, but that's obviously what they want. They're trying to pull on the heartstrings. The instability has taken an emotional toll on our youngest daughter, who lost her father to...
I'm losing my patient.
There's no way. So this lady lost her limbs in a shelter that she should be thankful for, and the father died of Rona, and she wants to blame it on the milk. No, he probably didn't die of Rona, and she probably didn't get this disease from the milk. You guys were probably living filthy, disgusting lives, okay? Who lost her father to Rona during the early days of the pandemic in Venezuela. All these years and thousands of miles later, she faced the prospect of losing her mom to illness too. She's very quiet and closed, but things are looking up. She added, although her hospitalization cut off her daughter's access to the overnight shelter, the teen has been staying with church friends as she embarks on her second year at Thurgood Marshall High. Yeah, I'm sure it's just church friends, right? It's probably an NGO that is taking in illegals at, as many as they can, right? But they're just going to call it church. This is full of weirdo fake lies, fake news and euphemisms. In sharing her story, Marquez said she hopes the city will re-examine the way it determines housing placement. I just hope they take better measures and are more vigilant, she said through a translator. Again, she doesn't speak English. And what she is saying is that we need to employ a stronger hostile takeover tactic.